Salad. Hello, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us during the live and or replay. We have a couple friends here with us. John obviously is typically here, and so am I. But we also have Skippy and Divya here.
Hey,
Any other friends here that I don't know about, John? I think it's just the two of them,
I
right?
see Skippy and Divya.
All right, cool. Just making sure, technology is great when it works, but every now and then.
Then it works. And
Yeah,
and
for sure.
before we jump in, we should wish Lexi a happy birthday.
Oh,
uh,
happy
happy
birthday.
Last
birthday!
week, last week was Lexi's number birthday.
It's okay. I have no shame. I turned 27.
Happy
Thank you
Yay!
so
birthday.
much. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really great day, great weekend. Yesterday, I actually celebrated my mom's birthday, so that was also really fun. Yeah, today's my cousin's birthday. Tomorrow's my nephew's birthday. It's a
That is
whole
packed.
couple months. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, my stepdad's birthday is next week, so it's definitely a party time for us. But yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I was not expecting that. Thank you. Yeah, okay. Well, now that that's over, I guess we can move into the topic of today. We are actually talking about the language of sync. Um, and I'm glad that we have some guests here today because I really wanted to be able to express the intricacies that are involved with sync and the language of it, because in a lot of cases, you have so many different people in need of licenses, giving licenses, new to the space of sync, and
Yeah.
all around in between. People who if you're not all on the same page, if you're not all speaking the same language, things are going to get lost in translation. Um, you know, Licenses might not be granted, and just all sorts of things that can come up because there was a miscommunication. And so I really wanted to have a specific episode where we talked about this, to really go into detail and to like I said, describe everything that kind of goes into that.
Yeah.
So, kind of going, jumping right in, I wanted to ask you, John. So, not everyone, as we know, is musically literate. So, how would you say you bridge that language barrier when it comes to working on projects?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great question. And I guess musically literate, that's we as supervisors in managing music and media, that's what we're hired for, right? We're hired to manage the whole process. So I guess for as far as expectations, we don't want to put that on our filmmakers, right? They don't have to be experts in this. That's why we get brought onto a project.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean the expectation is not that everybody is musically illiterate, but that we are all kind of have alignment. It's really about alignment and expectations. Um, so how do we bridge the language barrier? I go back to a document that we talked about, Lexi, and it really forces filmmakers to answer some really specific questions that we need in order to be part of their project and work on their behalf. And that's the 20 questions document. And
Mhm.
we use this document to really pull stuff out of the filmmaker. Um, Filmmakers are artists, right? They want to make their vision a reality, and that's what they need. That's where they need to be. But in order for us to manage the music and to supervise their project, we need some very specific details that I guess not that they're trying to evade those questions or not answer those questions, but it's hard for them to
Right. They
really.
don't always know what it is that we need or, what's necessary to get the process started.
Yeah. So we need to really wrestle that down to reality and pull out the details, have them pull out the details within their team first, and then we can kind of come on board. So until we have those specifics, um, we really can't be part of the project until we have all those specifics. So it really forces filmmakers to answer those some specifics.
Mhm.
And then once we have all the details, there's a couple other things that we do, and it's what we call spot ranking. So if we have like 3 spots for the episode, um, they likely have some ideas of some music that fits, and then we come on board and we manage that and get it to the goal line. But as far as spot ranking, we rank those spots with them. Like, okay, 1, 2, and 3, which spot is the most valuable, and which one really needs a specific type of song.
Mhm.
And then you know, maybe we rank them, 3's our top ranking and 2 is a little more non-essential. Maybe we can kind of
Mhm.
manage that differently and maybe replace the music, and the first is maybe equally replaceable. So that third spot is really vital, core. And what that does is really allows us to manage the budget. So
Mhm.
for that third spot, we know, okay, that's going to be an expensive spot, and then 1 and 2 we can kind of work within their budget creatively a little more. So that's something we do for spot
Mhm.
ranking. We really rank the high value spots, and then the lower value spots we have more options for.
Right. And it's typically easier for something like spot ranking to be translated because everybody can understand the ranking system, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's like
um,
we're not expecting them to be musically literate and to understand all the minutia of what we're going to do for them, but we
mhm.
do need to know, okay, like spot number 3 it's going to be an expensive spot. We need this type of song, and we all have alignment for spot
Right.
number 3. Yeah.
Right.
And
Cool.
then secondly, Lex, there's something we do called find the fit, and that helps the filmmaker really understand what it is they've fallen in love with. So um, if they've fallen, and that's when I say find the fit, there's a couple different things. Sometimes the fit is the decade. They just want that early 60s Motown feel. Like it's a decade. It's a era that they want. That's the fit. Other times it's just the energy. Like they
Mhm.
want the energy of um, the boys are back in town. It doesn't have to be the boys are back in town, but they want
Right.
the energy
Right.
in that thing. So that it's an energy
Right.
fit that they want. Other time it's a feeling. Like they just want the feeling of a Kenny Loggins song from the late 70s. And so
Mhm.
it allows us to really pinpoint, is it a decade fit? Is it an energy fit? Is it a feeling fit? Is it maybe it's a
Mhm.
lyric, like they just want a certain theme, a thematic lyric
Mhm.
emphasizing the
Mhm.
scene? Or maybe
Right.
it's a specific song. Maybe they just want a Justin Timberlake song, and that's the ranking.
Just what they
That's the
want.
fit.
Yeah.
You want the Justin Timberlake song. So those two things. I mean, spot ranking helps us rank the spots, and then fit finding of really finding out what they've fallen in love with.
Mhm. And
Those
then
those
in
two.
doing all the or uh getting all that information kind of stems from that 20 questions document that we give them at the beginning.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
20 questions document, and for those of us, maybe who don't have that or haven't heard of that, we make that available as a free download, which we can put below. But it's 20
Mhm.
questions that really talk meat and potatoes, budget, type of use, film budget, all the real kind of open and honest things that are
Mhm.
important to supervision.
Right.
I mean, we've mentioned it before, but it's like one of our principles, I guess, is no secrets and no surprises. So within the internal team, we have to be bulletproof on the those 20 questions, because as we work with composers and producers and rights holders, we can't be we can't be bullshitting our people. We need to be open and honest and really direct and really quick too. I mean, we have to move relatively fast. So
Yeah, I definitely picked up on that
yeah,
at some point in during one of our projects. I was like, oh, okay, this is moving a lot faster than I thought it was. But actually, speaking of
yeah,
moving faster, you kind of touched a little bit on my next question, so I want to get that out before too long. So, and like I said, you did kind of speak on this a little bit, but can you elaborate a little bit more on in what way emotion plays a role in music supervision? And whether that be the songs that are being chosen, or even just managing the expectations and emotions and egos
yeah.
even
That's a
of the people that you're working with, because of that communication and not everyone knowing all of what's needed and things of that nature. There's kind of
yeah.
a
That's a
double-edged sword
great
there.
that's a great question, because the obvious answer is music is the emotion plays an essential role to the end customer, the person
Hmm.
viewing the film. So that's vital. But within the our team here, and like you said, that happened this week on a couple projects. The emotion within the filmmaker and the editor and the videographer and the project manager, it's like those emotions kind of get spun up. So emotions can you need to keep it core for the end customer who's going to watch it. That's vital and important, and the music strengthens and supports the scene, absolutely. But the motions can also kind of be our worst enemy, in that somebody miscommunicates, or you know budgets are capped at a certain place, and the deadlines moved up. Those kind of
Hmm.
things really can affect the the emotional nature of just really the project management part of it.
Hmm. Hmm.
um,
Yeah, especially with that deadline moving up bit, because you know anything can happen at this in this industry. I've learned, and also I've like heard from other people in the space, and it's really interesting because one of the biggest pieces of advice that I've gotten from people in this industry is that, you gotta kind of roll with the punches,
mhm.
but roll with the punches with a smile.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
you never know what could happen, but also it's not in our warehouse to get like super anxious about that deadline changing, or to get frustrated when um, is not what they want anymore, or things of that nature. So you kind of have to just constantly be checking yourself, but also making sure that you're still communicating what's best and what's the needs of the project itself. So.
yeah, yeah. It's like we really have to. We can only control what we can control.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
when Biggie Smalls or Justin Timberlake or whoever the
Rights
artist is we're
holder.
working with,
Mhm.
or the family estate we're working with, we can't control what Justin Timberlake's team says, right? We can only
Mhm.
control the project. So that's a big deal. I mean, we have to kind of be the adult in the room, where the filmmaker's kind of getting a little spun up. We need to kind of be the cool voice and really managing the project. So
Mhm.
yeah, there's a lot of emotions there: air dates, budgets, team dynamics. That all plays into the emotions internally. So yeah, I would say, the emotions, there's kind of two axes. The first is the music axis. That's
Mhm.
vital and core, and the passion and the feeling and all that stuff is on one axis. And the other axis is really the project management axis. So, you want great music, and you want great project management. And that's really where, when we talk about managing music and media and music supervision, you can't have one without the other. You know, you
Mm-hmm.
have to manage the project well, and you have to manage the music well. And that's a very specific, it's up and to the right. You know, you got to have great music, and you got to you need to be able to manage the expectations
Mm-hmm.
therein.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that emotion is such a broad idea, and it has such a like noticeable impacts from so many different levels. So I definitely wanted to include that in here
Yeah.
because, like I said, it definitely plays a big role that
Yeah,
I
and
can
I
tell.
think we need to keep front and center too is that we're serving, not only we're serving the filmmaker, but we're serving the end customer is the viewer watching the
Mm-hmm.
film, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that emotional response, and that's who we're serving at the end of the end of the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah, so kind of with that idea in mind, understanding who it is that we're serving at the end of the day and the main goal being the viewer and their perception of the project, the impact that the project has on them. What would you say are some challenges that have arose when discussing music with clients? Because
Mhm.
obviously, like we said, we don't expect them to know everything going in, but you know, there is a certain amount of knowledge that I would think they need to have at least
Yeah.
in terms of, what emotion they're trying to convey, what feeling, what, vibe, if there's a decade,
Yeah.
so but that doesn't always come across. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things, Tiffany. I mean, there's some clients are just transactional. They just want it done, and they need to go on and do their film, right? Other people are very high touch and squishy and creative and emotional, and they want to collaborate. So you really kind of have to understand what type of client you're dealing with. If it's an advertising agency, they're going to be kind of transactional. But if it's a filmmaker, they're going to be kind of, high touch, creative, squishy. Um, so that's, you have to know the customer you're serving. And then I would also say too, challenges discussing supervision with clients. You need to know where they're coming in on the project. If
Mm-hmm.
they're late and an air date is next week, that's a late situation. But if they're coming in the middle, maybe they've got 2 or 3 months till the air date, and they're editing, and that they're in a reasonable place, and that makes sense. They're kind of coming in the middle, right? And if they're early, maybe they haven't even shot it yet, and they're thinking about music early, and they're budgeting. And you can really, you want to always start earlier than you think if you're a filmmaker or an ad executive.
Mm-hmm.
So early, middle, and late, you kind of have to know where they are in the project life cycle. Because the earlier we come onto the project, the more helpful we can be, the more resources
Right.
we can bring. But if they're coming in late and they need us to pull a rabbit out of our hat, we can do that. But it's a very different work approach for us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's a challenge. Um, and
Yeah,
then I
because
would say,
I one thing
go ahead.
that I was gonna say when it came to situations like that is um, it makes it that much more difficult if the client doesn't understand one, all that goes into getting a license and what information is needed and what and the time frame that it would take if they didn't bring us on late,
Yeah,
but also um every now and again there's that person who doesn't really understand why a license is needed in the first place,
right.
or doesn't think that, not to any fault of their own necessarily, but they don't think that you should pay for the music in the first place, or things of that nature. So kind of um battling with that alongside of kind of educating and like helping them see like, oh, this is there's a need for this, not only legally but also kind of through obligation because of this being a work of art, this being someone's property that needs to be you know, passed along in the correct through the correct channels and things of that nature.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think if they think it's, oh, well, Justin Timberlake's going to get exposure for our film, it's like, well, Justin Timberlake doesn't need exposure. You know what I mean? It's like that's a tell, and that's a sign that
Yeah.
they're probably not the right customer for us. We're not a good fit for them. If we have to explain why music is valuable and budgets matter and that kind of stuff, um, maybe they just need to use a piece of library music, royalty free type thing, and that's probably the best path for them.
Hmm.
Yeah, but those are a couple of the challenges. I mean, the music part of it is honestly, I mean, after having done this for years, that's kind of the easy part. The challenging part is just the budgeting and the people management and the project management part of
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
Because some people are good communicators, some people are, wait hours before they communicate, and it's like, well, if we're help us help you. If
Right.
you
Right. Yeah. We are here to help, but at the end of the day, we can't read your mind.
yeah, like this week we were working on projects, 40,000 budget and a $4,000 budget. So, a different kind of approach for each of those.
Yeah. Um, so my last question, um, and answer this however you think works best, was just how do you ensure that all parties involved are on the same page when understanding the sync licensing process? Because obviously, this whole episode is geared towards the language of sync, and we've already established that there's different beginnings and middles and ends to the entire process and where people come in and things of that nature. So I just want to say, like, if you could kind of almost like a blanket statement, but
Yeah.
like I said, whatever comes naturally, how would you ensure that everyone's on the same page?
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you say understanding the sync license process, the filmmaker doesn't have to understand that. I don't want to put that on them. That's why they're hiring us, and that's why we've been brought on to it. So
Hmm.
they don't have to understand the process we take. Um, and at the same time, we are. I would say it goes back to just that initial filmmaker call that we have with each filmmaker. We're vetting them as much as they're vetting us. They need to know that we have the process. We've done this 1,000 times. We know how it works. Um, but also we're vetting them. Like, we need to know that they understand enough of the process. They don't have to be experts in it, but they need to know that, okay, these are the 3 steps, and this is the budget, and this is how we allocate that budget, and this is the process we take at a high level. So we're vetting them. And honestly, that's oh, usually when people call us, they are just relieved that they've found us at the Sync Center, and they're like, "Oh my goodness, I've
Hmm.
been banging my head up against a wall.
Yeah.
And I talk to somebody who can do this. I don't want to pay $1,000 an hour for a lawyer, that kind of stuff." Um,
Hmm.
so it's really us vetting them. Can they? Is this a project that's important to them? Has a reasonable budget? There's a distribution path in place, or for an advertiser, the client is excited about the project and they can pull it off, because we're kind of coming on to their team. If it's an advertising project or a filmmaker, we're kind of coming under them. So if they're
Hmm.
full of shit or kind of sketchy and they don't want to answer questions,
Hmm.
that's a tell for us that, maybe this isn't a client for us. Maybe they, need to go somewhere else if we can't get to clarity with them or on the project. So that's one of the ways that we get on the same page, is just vetting them and they vet us. And then that clarity is just, we talk about it all the time. It's no secrets and no surprises. As a supervisor managing their project, we need to kind of be reading each other's mind. Yes, they're making the
Mhm.
film, but we're managing the music side of it. So it's like there just needs to be a real ease of communication, sight lines in the studio. When there's lines of sight, you can see all the players and everybody can kind of interact and communicate well. It's those kind of things. It's the lines of sight need to be really, really there.
Bulletproof.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that overall, it's really interesting. One of the main things that you've kind of touched on throughout this whole conversation was just, we don't expect them to know the entire process or even know, they're not experts, and I think that that's something to really just highlight, that that's what we're here for. We're here to help. We're here to kind of guide you along. And I'm sure there are definitely people who, when needing our services, they want to know the ins and outs of what goes on. But at the end of the day, it's not something that is 100%
They,
necessary.
yeah,
And,
they need to understand
that's
that.
what we're there for.
Yeah, they need to understand that we know the process. They,
Hmm.
they don't need to get in the trenches with it, but they need to know that, here's how it works at a high level.
Right.
Because they're out there,
So
they're making the film. They need to be quarterbacking.
focus on that. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that in some ways, knowing that and kind of having that peace of mind of, oh, I don't have to understand everything in order to bring these people on, can be a comfort,
Mhm.
when starting projects, when even realizing, whenever you get to that point, when you realize, oh, there will be music in this project, I will need to figure this all out. Don't let your um, don't let your potential ignorance be a deterrent for reaching out to the people who can help you, because at the end of the day, for us, like I said, we don't expect you to know everything. It's a joint effort. You are constantly reaching out to people who can help you elevate, and that's
Yeah.
essentially what we're here to do. So
It's very collaborative. I mean, I kind of think about it as, our job is to be an octopus. We've got 8 different hands, and one of them's working with the rights holders and the artist. The other one's working with the filmmaker. The other arm's working with maybe the project manager or the editor or the videographer or the music producer. So all those parties have to be managed and communicated with, appropriately. We may not need to talk to everybody every week, but we need to kind of keep everybody in the loop,
mhm,
because especially as projects are being more music driven and music focused, it's like
mhm,
sometimes the center of the wheel is the music. And
mhm. The one thing keeping everybody
yeah,
together.
it's like it's all about the music. So if it's,
You're right.
you know, if we're the center of that wheel, then music obviously matters and to the project. So
Right.
yeah, those are great questions, and that's kind of what we're going to talk about in the upcoming Sync School too. Should we wrap
Yeah,
finish
yeah, I
that
was
up?
gonna say we're definitely gearing up for that. Obviously we talked a lot about the language of sync here, but in a more specific by-side kind of element to it, we do have sync terms and things that we learn all throughout the sync school. And then there's also a Quizlet link and all
Yeah,
sorts of different resources that we kind of create and provide for our Sync School students. So I know I'm super excited to really get going with this next session, because we did the first session knowing what we wanted to achieve, and I do believe that.
yeah. The first session was great. I mean, it was a 5 day training to where we kind of go through all the moving parts of music supervision and managing music for media. Um, it was a great first go around, and we've got open registration for the next group coming up, so that's going to be That's going to be a blast.
Frozen, or if y'all frozen, but I'm gonna just keep talking. Um, I know that we're gonna drop all the links for the upcoming Sync School in the description, in the comments, in the posts, wherever you see this video, it's gonna be attached somewhere there. And then for our recent Sync School graduates, and also just anyone who is a little bit deeper involved in the Sync Supervision music clearance space. We also have a community that we're building as well,
Yeah.
to help just kind of further that education and further that community building, relationship building, so that we can all be working and learning more and having that direct line of
Mhm.
from classroom to real world application.
Right.
So I'm
And that
super
was
excited about
something,
that as well.
yeah,
That's
the
going to be really
community
cool.
is really exciting because that was one of the things that came out of the Sync School. Sync School is a 5-day training where we just really drink from the fire hose and really drill down on 5 specifics each,
Mm-hmm.
one specific each day. And what came out of that is that people were asking, hey, is there a way we can kind of come back as a group or some kind of form? So we went away and kind of put our heads together and organized what we're calling the Supervisor Sync community, and that's an ongoing monthly group of um, licensing professionals. They either do this every day or they want to be doing more of this. So
Mm-hmm.
we meet twice a month in the community, and we continue the training, but we also bring in some guests. We get more feedback on our projects. So it's really collaborative and really just kind of a mind hive of people who are in this space, working in this space, or want to be in this space. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a fun, and that starts next month, right, Lexi?
Yeah, both the next session of the Sync
Okay.
School and the first training session within the
Yeah,
Supervisor Sync community starts next month.
yeah,
So
that's gonna be great.
dates and all that are available on the links that we'll put with this whole video post, but we'll also be putting a lot more detailed notes about each of those opportunities in later posts. And so definitely follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, subscribe to our channel, all the good stuff, because we're going to be dropping a lot of information regarding those 2 opportunities in the coming days and weeks. So yeah,
Love it.
definitely get excited. I know I am.
Yeah.
And yeah, did you have anything else, John, you want to cover before we
No, I
go?
mean I think the topic of communications and
Just the language of it
the
all.
language of sync. Yeah, I think that's a great topic. So yeah,
Okay.
thanks for organizing this, and we'll be, like Lexi says, we'll be back talking more about what we do at the Sync Center and the training at the Sync School. So
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much to Skippy and Divya for joining us and being a part of our conversation live. For those of you watching the replay, thank you so much for watching. I hope that we provided some great information for you to go on and move forward in your sync journeys. Definitely feel free to reach out to us via email or website, scheduling a call, whatever the case you need. We are here to help as always. And thank you so much for watching. All right, y'all.
everybody,
Bye.
see you soon.
Thank y'all.
Thank you
Have a good
guys.
one.